In 1720, the French economy didn't slow down. It didn't stumble. It didn't enter a recession. It ceased to exist. Not because of a war, not because of a famine, because one man, a Scottish gambler who had fled a murder charge, was handed the keys to the entire French money supply, and he drove it straight off a cliff. His name was John Law. And this is probably the most insane true story in the history of money. John Law was born in Edinburgh in 1671, the son of a goldsmith, smart, charming, and completely reckless, a combination that tends to end badly. By his mid-20s, he'd burned through his father's money, become one of London's most notorious gamblers, and killed a man in a duel over a woman. He fled England one step ahead of the hangman's noose and spent the next decade drifting across Europe, Amsterdam, Venice, Genoa, gambling, studying banking, and developing a theory that would eventually make him the most powerful man in France. The theory, roughly, was this: gold is just a number. What matters is confidence. If people believe money has value, it has value. Paper could do the same job as gold, and you could print far more of it. In 1705, he tried to sell the idea to Scotland. They passed. He tried the Dutch. They passed. He tried Savoy, Piedmont, and several other places now too small to appear on a modern map. All passed. Then France ran out of money. Louis XIV had just died, leaving France essentially bankrupt. Decades of war, an absurdly expensive court at Versailles, and a tax system that barely touched the aristocracy had left the country drowning in debt. The new regent, Philippe II, was desperate. Law walked in with his theory. Philippe, who had nothing to lose, said yes. In 1716, Law was given permission to open a private bank in Paris. It could issue paper banknotes, the first of their kind in France, redeemable for gold. And early on, he was careful. The notes were trusted. The economy actually started to recover. People were impressed. So Law went further. In 1717, Law took control of the Mississippi Company, a trading company with a monopoly over France's Louisiana Territory in North America. The land was largely unexplored swamp and forest, but Law marketed it as a continent bursting with gold, silver, and limitless agricultural wealth. He was lying, more or less completely. But the pitch worked. Shares in the Mississippi Company went on sale, and people queued around the block. The price climbed, then climbed again, then climbed again. Within 2 years, the share price had increased by roughly 3,600%. A street outside Law's office became so crowded with investors that it had to be closed. A hunchbacked man reportedly made a small fortune simply by renting out his back as a writing surface for people signing share certificates. By 1719, John Law, a Scottish fugitive who couldn't set foot in England, had merged his bank with the entire French national debt, taken control of the mint, and become France's Controller General of Finances. He was, for a brief period, the single most powerful man in the Western world. It unraveled fast. Smart investors started quietly cashing out, converting paper notes back to gold and moving it out of France. Law, panicking, tried to ban the export of gold and silver. He tried to forcibly devalue gold coins to make his paper money more attractive. He printed more notes to cover the withdrawals, then more, then more. By May 1720, the bank suspended payments entirely. The notes were worthless. People who had been millionaires on paper were destitute. The crowd outside Law's office stopped being an investment queue and became something considerably more dangerous. Roughly 500,000 people lost most of what they had. The French economy was in ruins. The damage was so severe, so psychologically scarring, that France essentially refused to develop a proper banking system for over a century afterward. It arguably contributed to the conditions that produced the French Revolution 70 years later. John Law somehow escaped. He left France in December 1720 with not much more than the clothes on his back, all his land, assets, and fortune confiscated. He went back to wandering Europe, Venice mostly. He gambled. He was occasionally received by curious nobles who wanted to hear the story from the man himself. He was never imprisoned, never tried, never formally held accountable for the economic catastrophe he'd caused. He died in Venice in 1729, broke, still defending his theory. The theory wasn't entirely wrong, as it happens. Paper money did replace gold. Central banks did eventually work more or less the way he'd imagined. The problem wasn't the idea. It was the gambler running it. Some people just cannot stop when they're ahead.